Welcome to it, sports fans. Friday night in the Republic of South Africa. What a great day to be alive. Man, I had a good day today. I went for a run. I felt good. I didn't feel old, which is great because I turned 34 this year, so I'm on the downhill. But I felt great today. Absolutely great. And we got a cool show coming up, and we got a fantastic guest. With me, of course, on a different ball game, the lovely Woude Muller. Woude, how are you?
Hey, I'm fine. I don't think my day was as great as yours, but it's all good. I do just want to ask you, did Liverpool win last night? Did they win the league?
Goodness.
Is that what happened?
No, they won the league. Let's get it straight. Liverpool won the league because Chelsea, once again, to the rescue, went and beat Man City. Unlikely victory, but we did it. So you're welcome. We took Torres off them back in the day. Now we give them a title. Yeah, well, congratulations. You got to say congratulations to Liverpool. It makes me sick to say it, but they've been unbelievable. They've really been the best team in England for the last 18 months. So, Phenomenal. Great result. Good stuff. Makes me sad inside, but I can pretend to be happy for them.
Good. That's all that counts.
That's it. All right. Well, let's get to it now that we've gotten off on that unbelievably horrible note. Oh, the Scousers are champions. Congratulations to the red side of the Merseyside River. They've earned it. Jurgen Klopp's been brilliant. Mo Salah's been brilliant. Virgil van Dijk's been brilliant. I cannot say enough things. The great thing about them is they haven't just been pragmatic. They've really entertained. They've been electrifying from back to front. Their right back is probably the biggest assist machine in the league at the moment alongside Kevin De Bruyne. So fantastic. Sometimes when you're beaten by the best, hold your hands up. Hold your hands up. That's why we do sport. But let's get into today's show, ladies and gentlemen. A different ball game with me, MKT. And as you've just seen, Woude Muller, who fell off a stationary bike a couple of weeks ago. And she had a hell of a day today. But we're going to make it better by being with you guys through all of this. So today, remember, Friday's, of course, my favorite day, purely because it's the weekend and I can go for a long run. But also, I get to do the Friday Five. Today, I'm going to give you the best central midfielders to ever play in the Premier League. And then Woude is going to give us some headlines. And then, of course, it is rugby time. Jacinda Ardern has got the New Zealanders gathering like hordes at a war scene. They are gathering. It is 50,000 Jacinda Ardern. Love her. She's the best. Open it up. Let people play rugby. 50,000 in a stadium. Woude's going to give us her predictions. Teams, how they set up. Who's looking dangerous. Who may be where. The Chiefs, of course, reeling. Can they turn it around this season or this weekend? Cannot wait to hear that in the Skip Pass with Woude Muller. But let's start off with this. The engine of the team is, of course, the central midfield. I'm going to give you the top 5, the greatest midfielders of all time. The Friday 5, ladies and gentlemen, best CMs in Premier League history. Here we go. At number 5, listen, he's the best number 10 to ever play in the Premier League. He was the best player under 3 managers. They've won 4 titles. He was the best player all along. The best tempo controller the league has ever seen. It's not close. In Spanish football, they call it, he's got that pausa. He's got the ability to have that extra second. Put his foot on it, look up. He makes the game look easy. At number 5, the great David Silva, Merlin himself. At number 4, the metronome of Sir Alex Ferguson's dynasty. Quite simply, the greatest modern-day playmaker that England has produced. He's the most intelligent player they've had since Gaza, in my opinion. 11 titles later, 107 goals in this glittering career. Ladies and gentlemen, at number 4, what a great career. The Ginger Ninja, that is Paul Scholes. At number 3, outside of Michael Essien, I still maintain he looked like a basketball player. Outside of Michael Essien, the greatest athlete the league's ever seen. Listen, he halted, of course, that Man United dynasty the first time around. They halted it. They went invincible. He's captain invincible. He took Arsenal to the very top. They were unstoppable. Him and Henry in cahoots were unplayable. 3-time league champion. Looked like a basketball player, originally from Senegal. French World Cup and Euro champion. At number 3, the great Patrick Viera. At number 2, I'm going to say this, and it might sound ridiculous. He's got the 4th most goals. Conversely, he's also got the 4th most assists. That's one player. Say it again. 4th most goals, 4th most assists, 177 goals, 102 assists. He has got a season where he scored 22 goals, had 14 assists in the same season. He's quite comfortably England's greatest ever midfielder. At the Blues, he won 3 titles. He's the greatest thing that's been produced at West Ham and to play for the Blues. At number 2, the second greatest midfielder of all time in the English Premier League, the one and only Super Frank Lampard. At number 1, now this has a little bit of a story. Come with me on this journey. Kenny Dalglish in 1993 made the biggest paperwork error I still maintain in sports history. He came with the wrong paperwork. The player couldn't sign. He went back to the Blackburn offices. They were locked on the Friday. Before he knew it, by the Saturday morning, Sir Alex Ferguson had swooped. This central midfielder went from Nottingham Forest. He went to Manchester United for a then world British record of about £4 million. He is the only player to ever be equal to Sir Alex Ferguson. 7 Premier League titles. They went to three-peat once. So it was the first time Man United three-peated. He was the leading force in that. He was essentially a second manager for Manchester United. Alex Ferguson could do his thing with his coaching staff, the mental side. He had another manager on the pitch. It was completely unfair. Man United had 2 managers. He is hated by everybody unless he was on your team. Ladies and gentlemen, there is only one Keane at number 1, the great, the indomitable Roy Keane. There has never been anything like him. When you put a footballer together, I don't just mean a central midfielder. When you put a player together, this is what you want. Number 1, heart. Number 2, he doesn't care about being popular. For a big ego machismo sport, with guys with lots of money, they love being popular. Who's got the coolest car? Who's got the best looking girlfriend? This guy didn't care about that. I want to win. 3-peat, greatest captain. If you remember that performance, he got suspended for the treble. That final season, UEFA Champions League, he dominated a pair of Zidane and Nedved. Both of them. He had both of them in his pocket. This is the type of monster you're talking about. And as I said, like a second manager, everybody knew not to cross him. The best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be. He embodied the football club. He is the best footballer. And I say Thierry Henry is the best player. But when you put together a footballer, Roy Keane, personality and ability combined, you can't build a team around Thierry Henry. He's the greatest player, but when you build a team, you want the guy with the biggest character, and his ability was off the charts. Roy Keane, nothing like him. Dad, give me that list, top 5. You can debate it with me, but I just don't see who gets in here. If David Silva's at number 5, possibly the greatest playmaker of our time. Some might say Xavi, some might say Iniesta. Paul Scholes, okay. Paul Scholes is Paul Scholes. You would have to be in denial. I think England wasted him on the left. They should have dropped Gerrard. I truly believe it. They should have dropped Gerrard, should have played Scholes in the middle. They moved Scholes to the left. He said, hey, I'm out of here. I'm going to go hang out at Manchester with my family, go to Oldham in the holidays. Rather hang out with Fergie and win stuff. I'm not going to go to tournaments and lose in the quarterfinal and I'm playing on the left for Steven Gerrard. Are you kidding me? Gerrard isn't fit to lace this man's boots. Paul Scholes, greatest English playmaker in the Premier League era, and it's not close. It's not close. Such an intelligent player, the Ginger Ninja. At number 3, Patrick Viera. I don't need to say anymore. Captain Invincible, Euros, World Cup. He's the guy. He's the guy. At number 2, Frank Lampard. I mean, he's got the 4th most goals, 4th most assists. I don't know what you want from the guy. He went to the season 22 goals, 14 assists in one season. What do you want? You're not going to beat that. 4th most goals and 4th most assists. And he was actually a genuine number 8. Lampard would start from deep. He was putting in tackles in midfield and would break late. He did that for over a decade. 4th most goals, 4th most assists. Stop it. Nobody gets in here. And then Roy Keane's Roy Keane. I'm done with it. Roy Keane's Roy Keane. There will never be another one. There will never be a player like Roy Keane because he does not care about being popular. All these guys now, tell me about De Bruyne. Tell me who's the guys now? They all want to have the best haircuts. They all want to have pink boots. Winning's not the number one priority anymore. Tell me about Pogba. They spent £90 million on him. Do me a favor. Roy Keane, unstoppable, an immovable force, and will never be replaced as the best. He will never be replaced because he was the second manager at Man United. He was a really close copy of Sir Alex Ferguson, the greatest midfielder in Premier League history, Roy Keane. I'd love to hear what people have got to say. That's my top 5. Dave, give it to us once more. If you are not with us on YouTube, I'll read it once more for our podcast listeners. Give me that list, Dave. At number 5, David Silva. At number 4, Paul Scholes. At number 3, Patrick Viera. At number 2, Super Frank Lampard. And there is only one Keno, Roy Keane, at number 1. Friday 5, the greatest Premier League sentiments of all time. Love doing those lists. Love it. Next week, we will have the 5 greatest wingers. Cannot wait to give you that list. Speaking of wingers, let's move over to this. It is, of course, rugby time. The skip pass with Woude Muller. She has got the weekend's action coming up.
Yes, I do. It's going to be an exciting weekend again. But before I get to the exciting weekend, let's quickly just look at the 3 top headlines for me of this week. So first up, I have the Southern Kings. The Southern Kings had to get bailed out by Saru again. So we all know that the Southern Kings back here in South Africa, it's a team from the Eastern Cape, has been a bit of a disaster over the last couple of years. And the company who was kind of running them had a 74% stake in them. The company actually calls themselves the greatest rugby company in the whole wide world. Yes, that's what they call themselves. Anyway, they failed to meet the financial commitments and Saru had to take back the 74% shareholding in the organization. So Saru had to do this before in 2015 when the Kings also kind of went bankrupt. So maybe if you look at this, Cheeky Watson maybe wasn't the whole problem at the Kings. But at least this ensures that the Kings can still compete in the Pro 14 or whatever kind of competition they would have for them. I think there are all sorts of complications around this. We have absolute great talent coming from the Eastern Cape. As you know, our captain, Sia Khaleesi, comes from the Eastern Cape. So if you don't have a proper team there, what are you going to do with all these youngsters that come through from that area? So I really hope Saru can sort them out. Let's see what happens there. Second up, don't know if you guys saw, but there is talk that the All Blacks are considering a cross-code clash against the Australian Kangaroos, meaning there's going to be a rugby union versus rugby league hybrid game between the All Blacks and the Kangaroos. So this was kind of a topic of conversation between New Zealand Rugby and Rugby League. Nothing has been signed yet, but so it might mean that it's not going to happen. But New Zealand did say that they would be open to doing something like this. Really, all this would be about is just a massive money-making thing. I can't see any other reason why anyone would want to do this. For me, that's just stupid. I guess it will be a massive event because it's the biggest kind of team in the rugby union on that side and the biggest one in rugby league. But for me, I don't like the idea of it at all. Also, just imagine if top players get injured and then they're out in this like hybrid game kind of thing and then they can't play for an entire year. And what are you going to do about the rules? The rugby league, they don't push in the scrums, they don't have lineouts, they don't really get involved in a ruck. So basically, if you are going to do this, you're going to have to go more to a rugby league style kind of game, which the union guys are not going to be able to do because if you think about how many tries get scored from set pieces. So you're going to have to find a midway. They were talking about having 14 players on the field and all sorts of things, but just stuff. And imagine if rugby league beats rugby union. How embarrassing would that be? So let's not even go there. Please, New Zealand Rugby, don't stoop that low. And also, I think it's also quite bad for Australian rugby that New Zealand would rather play their league teams than the actual rugby union teams. And I think that's a bit of a slap in the face for the Australians. Last one. Rassie Erasmus, I think, has officially just upgraded to a highest, like, legendary status. I don't know if that is possible, but he battled a serious condition during the World Cup. So it was revealed in the week that Rassie underwent treatment before and during the World Cup for a rare autoimmune disease. So it wasn't necessarily cancer, but it does affect some of your organs in your body. So he was actually quite sick, but he never looked for empathy or sympathy. He just kind of secretly kept plotting the Springbok victory. So for me, he's now not just known as the man who managed to win the World Cup and bring the Springboks back in 18 months to number one in the world, but he also had to do that or everything while he had to manage a rare and potentially fatal disease. So I think I'm becoming one of Rassie's biggest fans again. So those are your 3 headlines for the week. If you have any other headlines you would like us to chat about, let me know. But these are the 3 things that stood out to me. Well, what do you have to say about them?
I mean, let's take from the top. Southern Kings is a mess. Cheeky Watson should be in jail. It's ridiculous that he's not, but okay. That's a whole other thing. He's an absolute nightmare and he has actually been a leech on the teat of Eastern Cape rugby for the last 20 years. He is an absolute pest. Let me make that very clear. So I have some inside info, of course, on the Southern Kings thing, which I can't really reveal, but I do know what is happening there. And it is a mess right from the top, I can tell you that. The All Blacks thing, to be honest with you, I've told you, rugby's so amateur. Let them try anything because rugby needs it, right? Is the product's dead. I don't care what people say. International rugby as a product is officially dead unless they make the domestic leagues more professional. So, hey, why not? Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather. I mean, rugby's such a mess anyway. And I don't care what anybody says. Rugby's such a mess anyway. Why not? Why not go and do it? And I hope they make the most money in the world. And I hope the players get 70% of the money. Pay the players. In terms of Rassie, I mean, I read the story 2 weeks ago. And in fact, I spoke to him about it 2 weeks ago. I don't know if he's going to come on the show, but it was obviously just, it's outrageous. It's absolutely outrageous. So just for a man who wasn't a fan and is becoming a convert, what a guy. What a guy. Yeah. You just have to give him praise. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, so talking about the exciting weekend coming up, it is week 3 of Super Rugby Aotearoa. The Blues and the Highlanders go head to head at Eden Park, and the Crusaders are hosting the Chiefs in Christchurch this weekend. So those are going to be 2 interesting clashes. Obviously, the Blues and the Highlanders are both undefeated. Yes, the Highlanders have only played 1 game. And then the Crusaders against the Chiefs who have lost both of their matches in this competition already. So if we look at the Blues, they have won the first 2 rounds of this competition. The Highlanders did defeat the Chiefs 28-27 in their opening game. The Highlanders did have a bye last week, and I don't think it was probably the best time for them to have a bye. It's not like they needed to rest in this competition. They were kind of just getting into it, getting used to the new way that they are reffing around the breakdown. But let's see how these 2 teams match up against each other. So Blues Highlanders all-time wins is pretty even. It's 17 to the Blues, 16 to the Highlanders. Wins in Auckland, where they're playing this weekend, the Blues have won 11 out of their 16 games. Highlanders only 5 of them. But the last 8 matches that they've played at Eden Park in Auckland, they've both won 4 matches each. In the last 15 matches head-to-head, though, the Blues have only won 4, and the Highlanders won 11. So the Highlanders pretty much on paper look like they are a much better team. The last meeting was last year in Dunedin though. The Highlanders won 24-12. They did play in Auckland last year, and the Blues did win that match. But basically, if you look at this, you should be thinking that the Highlanders are the better team. But let's just remember the Blues only really came back this year and really kind of turned it around, and they have been playing really, really great rugby up until this point. If we look at the teams, the Blues have named an unchanged side for the clash. They've only made 1 change on the bench, and that is Joe Marchant is on the bench, and it's his final game for the Blues before he heads back to the Harlequins back in the UK. The rest of them pretty much the same. I think that back row between Ione, Sutoto, and Papili, they're just incredible. I think they're really going to give the Highlanders back row a go. That entire team has just really managed to click so well. And it's clearly something that is working for them. And it's great that they haven't changed this team to just keep going on that. For me, the 11 and 14, Clark and Talia, they've really been so great on the outside. They speed, obviously Clark comes from a sevens background. And Talia's basically really done nothing wrong. Sam Knock and Otero Black, I really think are finding each other in that 9-10 combination. So all in all, the Blues team pretty much the same. And I think we can just expect more from the same from them. Highlanders made a few changes. So they did make a change at fullback. They haven't really found a replacement for Ben Smith in the fullback position. But you can see that Scott Gregory is back in the 15 jersey. The guy who played, Curry, who played fullback in the first game, is not even in the 23-man squad this week, which is quite interesting to me. And then also Josh Ione, obviously still out with an injury. He's probably not going to come back. So Mitch Hunt is filling in that number 10 position. Puri Boy is added to the bench. So pretty much, I mean, if you look at their back row, it's also pretty much the 6, 7, and 8. Pretty good combination. Brazil is such an incredible player. He's so dynamic in that blindside flank. And then Aaron Smith, I mean, he didn't have a great season last year. He was quite erratic all over the place, but I think he's much better. Erratic. Erotic and erratic. He's been erratic in other ways off the field, but erratic on the field. He's much better now. So, I don't know. A pretty good team. I don't think they're going to be able to do it against the Blues, though. So, for me, I reckon I'm going to go for Blues by 15 or more. How do you think with these two teams?
Blues.
Yeah.
Blues. Leon McDonald's done an unbelievable job. Let's give him the credit, right? He's come in, sure. He's surrounded himself with legends. You can see what I like about Leon McDonald is he said, I'm going to stay humble. Tana Umanga is such a massive presence, right? Just having Tana on your side, he hasn't said, okay, you were the previous coach, felt threatened. Leon McDonald has said, okay, let me embrace that aura because that's what Tana has. Yeah. So Tana's around the guys. They'll be inspired. And it looks like McDonald is real because this is the best Blues team since probably when they had Joeli Vidiri and Jonah Lomu, and that's like late 90s, early noughties. So tremendous job. I think the Blues beat them easily. The Highlanders are a shambles.
Yeah. So then we look at the Crusaders and the Chiefs. The Crusaders looked on fire last week in their first game back. They outscored the Canes 5 tries to 1, and I definitely think they will look for a similar result. The Chiefs, on the other hand, have lost both of their matches so far. But the Chiefs have won both of their last 2 matches against the Crusaders, despite trailing at halftime. But then the Crusaders are just so incredible. So they've won 17 out of their 19 matches against other New Zealand teams. Both of their losses were against the Chiefs. And the Crusaders have only lost 2 out of 45 of their last matches in Christchurch. So the Crusaders, I mean, there you can see all-time wins, 21-15. Christchurch, they've won 9. The Chiefs have only won 4 times there. Their last 10 matches at home, they've won 9 out of them. Chiefs have only won 5 games away. Head-to-head, though, they've been pretty even. It's 5 games each. And their last meeting, which was earlier this year in February, just before lockdown, the Chiefs beat the Crusaders 25-15. But, like I said, I have given up on the Chiefs. I'm done with them. I don't care what they do anymore. I don't even want to watch them play. The Crusaders team have stayed unchanged. If we look at that team again, I mean, what more do you want to say about a team like that and just that backline? Will Jordan, it could very easily, I put Sototu from the Blues in number 8 for my play of the week last week, but Will Jordan might as well have been that. He was right up there at the 15. Cody Taylor is staying the captain in the number 2 jersey. Scott Barrett is out for the remainder of the season. He needs to get surgery on his toe. So Cody Taylor back in the captaincy. Sam Whitelock, Dunshire, brilliant 4-5 combination. And that back line again is just great. But their back line from George Bridge, Bryn Hall, Richie Mo'unga, Severies, Jagudu, Will Jordan, I mean, what more do we want to say about that? We really don't have to. The Chiefs have made a few changes to their team. Sam Keane is back in the number 7 jersey and back into the captaincy, which I find quite interesting because he didn't play the first 2 matches. He was out with an injury, and starting him right up front, I thought that was quite a bold move. I probably would have thought he would have started off the bench. But this means that Boschier is moving to blindside flank. Boschier has been great in open side flank, but he's back in the number 6 jersey. Okoye in the number 5. He was brilliant last week and he made it into my team of the week. Anton Leonard-Brown, Damian McKenzie, and Tupoya at the back. Brad Weber, Aaron Cruden. I mean, if you look on paper, this team shouldn't be that bad. But it just seems like they just haven't been able to click and to get it to work. I'm not sure what Gatlin is going to do this week. But you can see more changes that they've made is Slater is back in the hooker position. Alamala is in the 14 on the right wing. Mitch Brown is back. So they've made a few changes. Obviously, he's a bit worried about that. And rightly so. The Chiefs, I don't care about them. So for me, I reckon Crusaders easily by 15 or more points. I would say.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Aaron Cruden's the most overrated rugby player I've ever seen. I don't know what people see in him. It's so ridiculous. No, that was Stephen Whatsit.
Okay. Oh, it was not even him. It was the other guy.
The Chiefs guy. Yeah. I forget what his name was. No. Aaron Cruden is one of the most overrated. He's like a bad Quade Cooper. That's what he is. Like the poor man's Quade Cooper. So I don't know what he's doing back there, because what I don't get about the All Blacks is let your young fly halves play.
Yeah.
And McKenzie should play 10. And I don't know why. I think Leonard Brown is one of the most explosive, electrifying rugby players on the planet. Stop trapping him at 12. Put him in the 13 jersey so he's got some space to work his magic. So anyway, the thing is about the Chiefs, I've said it before, no pack. And I don't care how good you are. You could have Christian Cullen. It's like the Hurricanes back in the day is what they're like. They've got unbelievable outside backs. But without a tight 5, it doesn't matter what you do. And let me tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. I can tell you lots of turners of overs at the line out. They're playing the smartest. And for me, the best lock in the world in white lock. So they've got the smartest lock in the world, the best hooker in the world that they're playing against, the best coached pack in the world. They're going to get decimated. So expect more. I would say 15 up. It's going to be, it's going to be brutal.
Yeah. So that's on Sunday. So we've got the Blues, Highlanders tomorrow, and then the Crusaders and Chiefs on Sunday morning. So let us know what you think, if you agree or disagree with us. Last week, a lot of people disagreed with me, and rightly so, because I made many mistakes. But this weekend, if you don't want to trust me, you're probably going to be wrong, because I can't see it going wrong this weekend.
Yeah, no, look, I think they're pretty easy picks. I think the Blues and the Crusaders quite easily. Yeah. I don't see any. Leon McDonald, by the way, he is, wow, what a turnaround job, because the Blues were the laughing stock last season. Tana Umanga is probably top 3 greatest All Blacks of all time, but also top 1 worst coaches of all time. Absolutely horrendous coach. So Leon McDonald, great job. And Leon McDonald, great player in his day, by the way. A lot of people don't realize he was a world-class fullback for 10 years at the Crusaders. Tremendous guy. So I think he's bringing a lot of that Crusaders attitude. Remember, he's a Crusaders legend, brought up under that Todd Blackadder era. And it looks like they look disciplined. They look really, really organized. I'm highly, highly impressed with Leon McDonald. Look out for him as an All Black coach very soon in behind Roberts. So very, very impressive.
Yeah, that's an interesting call. But for me, just the Blues have been, they've been terrible. And he's turned it around in quite a short time, which is really impressive. So hats off to him. Blues, Crusaders. There we go.
That's it. Great stuff. And that is the skip pass for this week. Vody, great stuff. Can't wait to watch the rugby. And make sure you join us on Super Brew. So if you play Super Brew, Cliff Central Brew. So that is Cliff Central Brew. Make your picks. Join us. Let's go head to head. And Father Christmas might come at the end of the season. Perhaps there'll be a prize on the line. Coming up next, a man who is so dynamic and thinks big and actually delivers on it. What is leadership? What should we think of it? Are people born leaders? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe not. Let's find out with our guest after this.
So the event has been nothing short of phenomenal so far. I think the caliber of speakers is world class. I think also what we have is a group of individuals who want to learn to become more effective in their roles.
I've been amazed how friendly and how warm the people are here. It's a lot like Ireland in that respect.
I took a bit from everyone, because there's just so much to learn. Ultimately, we're all working towards achieving greatness, and performance is very important at all levels, either from a sporting point of view, but also from an individual point of view as a leader and an entrepreneur.
There's more than just military leadership, and we can learn lessons from how do you lead in business, how do you lead in sport. As I listen to all the different speakers, the science behind things is really important.
Technogym has joined this because they see the development of training in the world moving to a high performance environment. And we've analysed what's happening with athletes, and we see this opportunity as a great opportunity to connect with the leaders in the industry and to share the developments that we've had in terms of that with them.
You're here for a reason. The players are picked for a reason, and it's not just about, if they can't make it, you throw them off to the side, but it's our job is to make sure that they are growing every day and that they are developing, and that really resonated with me today.
We're using things like Headspace, and we've got psychologists and psychiatrists on board with the playing group so that we are aware of the data, but also where the players' mindset's at.
The coach is the conduit between the science side, sports science, and the athletes. And for us, it's supporting the coaches and really helping them to improve their language, their tools, their way of communicating with the athletes.
If I put it into a team environment, we want the All Blacks, for example, to be cutting edge, to be the best, and to do that you've got to take risks, and I think some of the things that the Red Bull sports scientists are doing are just out of this world.
Well, the quality of the speakers at Elite Sports Summit 2018 were absolutely amazing. I reckon that 2019 is going to prove as successful, if not better, than this year.
So the Elite Sports Summit now is in its 4th year, and it's going into its 5th. And as said, we bring 300 top coaches from across world sport, and we're here to push the boundaries of human performance. And I think that we're doing that on an industrial scale.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. These are the types of guests we're going to be bringing you for our YouTube audience. I'm sure you had a look at that and thought, my goodness, that much brain power gathered all in one room, only great things can happen if people are exposed to that constantly. And our guest today is the man who put it all together, really. I cannot wait to chat to this guy, an absolutely electrifying figure. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring you and introduce my guest. Ladies and gentlemen, a man who is sweating half of his body weight away in the United Kingdom right now. A South African UK split is in his heart. Loves cricket, loves football. Liverpool fan, unfortunately. But ladies and gentlemen, he likes to bring big brains together. Ladies and gentlemen, the CEO of Conquer Group, Justin Woolford.
Bolelo, how are you?
Justin, an absolute pleasure to have you with me. I'm great. Justin, let me tell you, other than Liverpool winning the title because of my team, I am great.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear. I love that breakdown early on in your show of your centre midfields as well. There are a couple of debates in there, but that's a conversation for another time.
Oh, well, we're going to have you back. Don't you worry. We can chat about that. I'm looking forward to debating that with you and much, much more. Justin, we just saw a video of, it was, there was a colonel there was, sports leaders in there. And when you say the Conquer Group, when people hear the term Conquer Group, what should they be thinking? What is it that you guys have put together? Because it's a phenomenal thing for people that are into leadership.
When you think of Conquer, you think of performance, you think of leadership, you think of pushing the boundaries, you think of really outside of your channel. And that's really what we bring, not into the South African sports landscape, but to our global, audience as well. We don't just operate in South Africa, the US, UK. There's also an addition of Australia that's on the cards too. So, essentially what we do is that we bring together the brightest minds across various industries, that's sport, military, cricket, rugby, football, whatever you name it, get them into one room and we start debating high performance leadership, what really makes the top 2 and 5% tick. Of course, we do chat a little bit more about youth development, but anything that applies to sport from, grassroots right the way through to your top athletes. And that's what we do. We're here to push the boundaries.
Justin, most of us are so comfortable with whatever we are. So if we're mediocre, we'll hold on to that rather than take a risk. What is it that made you decide, hey, this is a good idea? So talk me through your journey before forming Conquer. Were you working somewhere else, or what led you to kind of think, okay, elite performance, that's me. I want to bring these great minds together. Talk me through what background do you come from before starting Conquer?
So I was working for a similar organization in the UK that was primarily focused within the business principles. So looking at digital sport, looking at fan engagement, looking at, essentially what happens, from a business standpoint. So sponsorship activation, managing the players and how clubs generate revenue and bringing those business personnel together to try and unearth different things, what different organizations are doing to try and monetize their assets. So, one morning got up and thought, that there's got to be a similar model in the sports performance space, and started doing a little bit of research around, and there wasn't really much going on in the team that works behind the team. So there was a bit of a gap in the market that I saw, we just kind of went with it. Decided, look, let's start pulling people from different sports, different backgrounds together. And it was a bit of a leap of faith, I must say, because I was working here in the UK. I'd been working here for over 5 years with a specific firm. I'd come from a very sports management background. I was at IMG before that, here in the UK. But, I just thought, there's a great opportunity to get into the sports performance landscape. And try and unearth different challenges and try and not professionalize it, but look at what certain organizations are doing better and where other organizations perhaps could learn from those methodologies and principles, and let's pull it all together and let's see what we can let's see what we can make of it. And 5-6 years later, we are, this is where we are. An exciting journey.
And talk to me. Yeah, because there's 3 main programs, right? And this is what I love about what you've set up is you haven't gone. You're kind of understanding there are transversals in leadership, right? And I want to talk about your 3 main programs, and maybe you could flesh those out for us, because there's value for each and every person who values personal development for me within Conquer. But go ahead and just flesh those 3 out for us, please.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So the buzzword at the minute is cross-pollination. I know that's where it's been chucked around quite a lot. So cross-pollination of information between, different sporting codes, or whether. So we just to kind of take a step back, we've got 3 different verticals. One is our sports performance landscape, or vertical or pillar, call it. that focuses on, anything with regards to elite sport, which I've just mentioned. Then we've also got our business verticals, one that takes place in New York and then one takes place in London. Those cross a variety of different sectors. So it's predominantly more leadership development across oil and gas, telecommunications, financial services, military, sport. And that's a very successful program that we do run annually here in the UK and I said in the States. And that's looking at various leadership development principles. So, how do you build winning team cultures? How do you make decisions under pressure? How do you attract the right talent? How do you retain the right talent? And all those various different leadership development principles that can apply to any single sector. And we bring them together because, as we know, certain sectors are further ahead than others. Like if you look at the Googles and Microsofts and IBMs, the technology industry, they predominantly always attract the smartest, brightest, individuals. So does the financial services, but financial services is a little older because it's a bigger industry and it's been going a lot longer. So, that there are certain issues there as well. So what we try and do is identify the movers and shakers of those specific sectors, bring them all together, and that's focusing on various different elements of leadership development. So I would say there's our sports vertical, and then we've got our business leadership vertical. Hopefully that kind of paints a bit clearer picture to your listeners about what we do and who we are.
Absolutely. And, it's your child, right? This is your brainchild. And I can, when we had our meeting, I could hear the passion flowing out of you for what you do. Now, tell me, how do you feel? It's been, 6 years now? Is it 6 or 5 that you've been going?
5 minus COVID. But let's call it 6 for the sake of the argument, because this year's.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
We're
all right,
in the business
negotiable.
of people coming together. Yeah, exactly. So let's call it 6 for the sake of the argument. But yeah, we're going for 6 years now.
You're such a young guy. When you've seen such a great thing come to the fore, what do you say to other young people that are in doubt? Because I'm sure you have lots of you may or may not have friends that go, "Oh, I really want to do this. I really want to do this." Even myself, taking that leap. What is it about? Is it just a matter of take the leap, or should people get better help? I mean, of course, that's what you do for a living. What is it that makes you special enough to go, yes, I'm doing it. I'm the entrepreneur. I will employ people. I will create jobs, and I'll be multinational? Because I find that phenomenal at your age.
Think big. That's been my philosophy. I can't say that I've got the magic wand, because there are obviously always issues when running a business of any nature. They're obviously a fantastic number of individuals that are doing even things that are even more innovative and better than what we do. But what I always say is that don't be scared, and I just did it. I saw that there was an opportunity. I took an opportunity, and it's so far so good. So yeah, I said that there's a lot to be learned, and learning all the time, and trying to associate yourselves and surround yourself with influential people. I think that's really been the key. Yeah, I've had a lot of guidance, in my road or in my journey rather. So it's just really surrounding myself with key individuals, that buy into the greater good of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I saw one name there who I absolutely love and I look up to, of course, as a presenter, Kola Nchinga. It was a notable name, and somebody who is one of your directors. So maybe talk us through how that relationship came along, because, of course, on our shores, he's an absolute legend.
Absolutely. No, X is fantastic. So I actually got introduced to X through SuperSport. So SuperSport actually attends our forum in Cape Town, the video that you just showed now. And yeah, we just got introduced to that in that way. And we, being in the business of people, X has got an amazing amount of experience being in film and media. And we needed to, after the first event that we ran, we just felt like we just needed to professionalize it a little more. And that's where X kind of brings a unique dynamic to the organization from a film and media standpoint, to actually host the event itself, ask the challenging questions, really kind of get under the skin and kind of keep the flow of the 2 days. Because I'm sure you can imagine, 350 top coaches from all over the world descend to Cape Town annually. There's a lot that's going on behind the scenes, and it takes quite a lot of work, between the sessions themselves, and X kind of just makes that kind of flow. So yeah, he's a fantastic addition. He's been great, a good guy as well. So we get on, and we've got a good strategy going on. We've been working together for the last 3 years. He's involved in all elements of the business. So thank God we've got him.
He's absolutely amazing. He's so cool. Everyone that I know that knows him says he is just the coolest guy. It is at this point, I think it's important that people realize that he was this man to my right, or is it my left on screen? I'm not too sure. I wasn't really educated like you. Was educated in Grahamstown. So anything is possible, people. This man went to school in Grahamstown.
Yeah, that's it. Kingswood College boys. So most people think St Andrews, but no, not St Andrews. Kingswood in Grahamstown. It's great school, and so that's where it all started. Hey,
No, phenomenal. I really love this story. By the way, you share that with Swedish House Mafia. One of the guys in Swedish House Mafia was born in Grahamstown. A little fun tip there for everybody at home. So, Justin, when we talk about pushing boundaries, which I think is what you really want to get into, what do you think the sports sector, and let's come to South Africa for a second, because I think I want to bring it into my realm and something that I understand. When we talk about pushing boundaries, it surely has to start at the top, right? What has been your experience kind of interacting with the South African sports market and bringing what you're hoping is an elite mindset and looking to upskill coaches? What's it been like for you? Who do you have to deal with in South Africa? And what's that experience been like for you as somebody who wants to lift up the efficiency and proficiency of our leaders in sport?
Sure. We've got some amazing clients right across from schools right the way through to professional teams, across the South African landscape. So there are just naturally, as it would be, certainly with our history, there are certain sports which are a little bit more established and a little bit more professional. It doesn't take rocket science to work out which organizations and which sports those are. But there have been challenges. I think that the challenges is trying to get people to think outside of their specific pillar. So when I talk about, let's just use netball, for example, how do you get the coaches to perhaps look outside of just netball, and what principles, successful principles, can they apply from perhaps hockey or NFL or basketball or rugby? Anything can apply. High performance is high performance. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be the absolute blueprint. What you take out of, let's use, for example, the All Blacks, and you put it into the South African cricket context, is going to be perfect, because obviously it's never going to be. But it's about looking at certain key changes, and it's about them. And there's a guy by the name of Dave Brailsford from Team Sky, and he talks about marginal gain. And if you change 2 or 3% of every specific area of your organization, you're going to have a huge knock-on effect. So that's what we try and do. We're not trying to change the landscape. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. We're just trying to provide a few key insights that certain organizations and industries have done extremely well, and try and provide that insight into organizations that perhaps are struggling in that area. So I would say that disconnect has been a little bit more challenging. I would have thought, individuals perhaps would have picked up and want to look outside of their kind of box. But, I think that's probably been the biggest challenge. And I said that we're evolving now, and we're getting there. Now that we've done it for the last 5-6 years, people are starting to come to terms with, we do have to look outside. We've got to look, at certain sectors, individuals, methodologies, areas to get better. But, it does have its challenges to try and change the mindset, because that's where it all starts.
No, look, there's probably things I don't want to put you in a position. There are things that I can say is that one challenge for me as a South African fan is that we don't create the ecosystem for our coaches and teams to succeed, because in our country, the government refuses to help our sport, right? And of course, we have a complex landscape with our history. That's not the problem. Is why are we not developing more coaches? Surely with programs like yours, shouldn't government be throwing money at you to say, hey, develop world-class characters as our leaders? Is that something that's happening, or are you facing challenges there with our government in South Africa?
No, absolutely. And I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things that I've faced, is that, we've got the platform. It's in South Africa. We don't have to go far to get access to some of the most, successful coaches in their specific fields. And they're right here on our shores. We get inundated with requests to attend the forum. and we can only do so much. We also a business. We're not a charity. So, it doesn't business class flights from 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different countries. The accommodation, the food, it all comes together. So we can only do so much to subsidize, individuals that we believe that should be there. And we feel, that there should be a lot more support. I mean, I said there's grassroots coaches out there that are probably, would love to attend and get access to this knowledge and upskill themselves from a professional development standpoint and learn and network. It's all part of the experience. And I just feel that perhaps governments, not necessarily supporting those individuals that would love to go. It's not like they don't want to go. It's just that they can't get there because of what we've spoken about, the capital and the resources.
Well, let's be honest, Justin. What is it they can do? Because you are doing your best to extend yourself from the sounds of things. What needs to happen for us to send, I don't know, 10 guys a year guaranteed? Like, what is it that you're asking? Because I think we need to put it out there. If we don't put these guys under pressure, they're never going to do anything. Everyone seems to, for lack of a better term, pussyfoot around these guys. But you guys are doing your best. What are you asking of the government, really? Or like, let's put it out there and start putting these guys under pressure. Otherwise, nobody's going to.
Well, exactly. And I think that's where it all starts. I think, we've got to hold government accountable. We do there's a lot of support, as said, from the schools, the universities are doing their bit to try and get as many coaches as possible. Even the professional sports teams, of course, some are better funded than others, and we understand that. And we'll always, kind of help and do as much as we can to ensure that we can broaden the net. But, that there's a lot out there that we just seen, some of the organizations that are involved, are obviously getting a lot better and they better funded, but there's a whole gap in the market that's being left out. And I just think that government should be stepping up here. I mean, it's frustrating, even kind of talking about it, I'm starting to get a bit wound up because, we are speaking to various stakeholders. We are out there. We are on huge amounts of effort and energy goes into this forum that we run. It takes a better part of 10 months to pull off. So there's a lot of people we speak to. There's a lot of awareness around it. We've got fantastic partners on board. But, we can, as a private business, we can only do so much. Government also needs to come to the party here. And it's, and they might not like to hear it, but the fact of the matter is that we're doing what they should be doing. We upskilling our coaches. And it should be, government should be helping us to try and expand the net and give them the support in order to attend something and do it, whether it's a partnership or something along those lines. And there have been conversations, but, sometimes things don't necessarily go the way that we all hope. So I think, to answer your question, I think that there's a lot that government can do from supporting our coaches that don't necessarily have the opportunities that some other coaches might have in other sectors.
When we were speaking the other day, you were saying some incredible things to me about how things work overseas. I'd maybe just want to speak to kind of professionalizing sport. Do you think we idealize that in South Africa? It's like, oh, well, we just produce great athletes and it's going to be fine. And we forget that these structures, without these structures, the talent is useless. And, I look at rugby and cricket. I constantly moan. I think those two sports are still amateur in my mind in this country. I don't know how you feel and whether anything can be done about that.
Absolutely no doubt. South Africa's probably got is a talent hotbed in itself. I think that we produce some of the most phenomenal athletes across all sports. So I don't think that it's an ability standpoint. I do think that there's a lot of support into not necessarily professionalized, because there are some coaches which are absolutely fantastic. You mentioned earlier on your show, I think Rassie, what he's done with the Springboks is absolutely phenomenal. I think he's almost like a beacon of light in terms of what you can do, or a beacon of hope rather, from where the Springboks were a few years ago to what he did, with the team last year and winning a World Cup. So look, I don't want to be too hypercritical, but there are other sports out there, that could certainly be doing a lot more. And I think, from just as an example here in the UK, the Football Association, on their technical committee board, they got someone from the military, someone from rugby, a couple business leaders, a few HR directors that are sitting on the Football Association's technical committee. So if you think of the knowledge they're gaining from different sectors that are talking about how to play football, it's an absolutely different ball game, for the sake of the argument. So I think
great term.
So I think that I don't think we necessarily need to professionalize it more. I just think that we need to come to terms with the fact that you need to look outside of your specific role and look at what other areas, look at other sectors and see what's going right, and maybe perhaps implement those principles. I know I sound like a broken record here, but it's that's all it is. You've got to look outside of you. You've got to take a step back, look at your organization, say, where are we going wrong? What could we do better? And I think that we get so channeled down and we get so into the nitty gritty, and we don't actually take a step back and look at where the key areas are. And there's got to be a talent development pipeline for coaches. Everyone talks about youth development. What about the youth coaches? Where those? Where the FA's got a fantastic program, to upskill coaches, like most businesses do. Where's the South African sports landscape needs to also think about that. Their coach education programs, and there are some that are going on, but not to the same degree that I think. So yeah, cut a long story short, I think we should. There's definitely a lot of work to be done in South Africa. Yeah.
I think it's such a tremendous point that you've just made. Sometimes we just think it's the players. We treat them like school children, and we say they're the only ones that need to develop. But I'm sure, as you know, and I'm sure you run your business this way, is leadership should constantly be developing themselves. And like you said, if we don't do that, then who will develop the players? People age, people move on, people, who is the next? And I think that pipeline thing you've just said is an unbelievably powerful message, Justin. In these COVID times, something that I noticed on your website, I just want to pivot to this, is that because naturally your business is bringing people together, as you said, right? Your summits are what you do for a living. But you decided you're not going to just be shut down by COVID. Let's talk a bit about Conquer Connect, because when we were chatting, I've already had a look at all the speakers that are coming up, and it's unbelievable how you've managed to pivot so quickly. Can we maybe talk about what Conquer Connect is and how people can access this, platinum information?
Sure. So as you mentioned, we pivoted a few months ago onto a digital offering. So Conquer Connect. So if you go to conquergroup.com, there's a Connect tab there. You can sign up and it's open to everyone. So essentially what we do is that we'll bring together various speakers from various different backgrounds once a month, and we'll kind of unearth these various similar issues that we've been discussing now. It's a digital offering. So we also have a really good number of additional benefits, which I don't believe some of our competitors have. So, we get for example, you can have the recording a few days afterwards. So if you don't make the session, that you can get the recording. We also have a lessons learned document. So, we take all the key notes and key outcomes of the hour and a half that we have, and then we provide that to all of our subscribers and listeners. So it's a lot more interactive, more online, and it just gives people a chance, to see what is going on without actually attending the forum, in its physical, being in its physical presence. So, look, it is a fantastic offering. It's doing really well. We're getting a lot of traction now, and people thoroughly enjoy it. And I think it is valuable because, again, not everyone can get to a specific program or an event that specific day. So this does kind of open up that opportunity for people that can't necessarily make the event and get them online.
And I mean, it's world-class leaders, right? The next one is up on is it 7th of July?
9th.
9th of July. So, sorry, maybe take us through that. And we will put a link to it in the description. So don't worry about that. For those who want to get access, it's purely world-class people. Conquer Connect, we will make sure that people have this. But talk us through the talk on the 9th.
Yeah, sure. So we've got Colonel Darcy Schnack, Director of Enhanced Performance from West Point Military Academy. She's a phenomenal name. But when at West Point is their kind of Special Forces Officers training. So, she works with her recruits, graduates, and essentially produces America's finest. She's going to be talking about, what they do from a cognitive analysis standpoint, how they make decisions under pressure, how they really become, essentially, what they are. And what differentiates themselves for being the best of the best. So it's a fantastic talk, and I've heard her speak before, and she's a big advocate of what we do, and a lot of her principles will certainly apply into the sports context and obviously into the business field, world too. So I won't give too much away on this because that's the whole point of being online, but you won't miss. Try and not miss it. It's exciting stuff.
Oh, it's an absolute bargain. It basically costs nothing to have a world-class speaker. I watched some of her videos. She is unbelievable, by the way. Like you don't see, you see her all like prim and proper in her uniform, and then when she speaks, it is a force of nature. So I'm in. Believe you me, I cannot wait, and we will make sure to try and get that message out, because I love personal development, and I think in our country, and I'm just speaking in the South African context for now. I know there's a dearth of leadership around the world. We really, this is platinum information that is so accessible. If we could just make it available to people, I'd like to know your thoughts on. I was speaking with a mentor of mine, and he said we do have a leadership crisis internationally. I'd like to know what you think to that, because obviously this is something that is close to your heart. Otherwise, Conquer wouldn't exist. Do you believe it is that, or is it just a matter of aligning our goals globally?
Sorry, I just lost you there. Could you just repeat the question again?
So I was just, do we have a crisis of leadership at the moment?
Yes, definitely. I think that we don't hold our leaders accountable.
Uh-huh.
Why not? In the business world, if you default on something, or if you don't do the right job, you get fired. That's simple. Why aren't our leaders held accountable? We hear all this nonsense about things, and things are covered up, and no, we need to be held accountable, and that's true leadership. And it's a responsibility. And if leaders want to be in those positions, they need to be held accountable. And if they get called out, then they need to. Yeah. So anyway, that's my feeling.
Well, I can see there's a lot of feeling to that, because I think we're on the same page. To whom much is given, much is expected. And I do love what you're saying. And the Colonel Schnecker was talking about, there's a term of, if you want all the glory, you have to take all the hard stuff. And that's what leadership is people want the badges without the scars. It's one of her things that she was saying in one of the talks that I was watching the Colonel give, is everybody wants the shiny medal. Look at me, without the battle scars. And I mean, she served twice, two, of course, trips to Iraq. So when she says she's got battle scars, that's not mucking about. She's for real about it. She's a real leadership. Not this pageantry. Justin, with Conquer, talk me through, what are you thinking for the next 2 to 3 years? What would you like to see happen as a company? And what are your hopes for the South African Summit?
Sure. So, there's quite a lot in there. So from a South African perspective, we've got to grow it. There are some key challenges. We've discussing and in discussions with our stakeholders at the moment, to try and onboard more people, get more individuals involved. There are challenges, so we just kind of continue to try and grow that program as much as possible. It's been going for 5 years, in its sixth, it should be in its seventh next year. It'll be in October. So ideally what we want to do is just continue on this path and try and get access and try and get as many people involved as possible. We have been approached by a number of other, stakeholders, specifically in Australia. It's a long way for a lot of them to come over. So what we're going to try and do and see how we can put together a similar forum, a similar program in that part of the world. We've got some amazing relationships there. So I think that there is a model, there's a very exciting opportunity which we are currently exploring at the moment. So that's from a sports standpoint. From a leadership standpoint, we've in London and New York, we're going to continue to grow those two. There's so much out there. People love what we do because it's so diverse, because it's so high level, and it's not just same old, same old. So that's really the offering. So I think we're going to just continue to keep growing. Obviously COVID aside, a lot can change in the next sort of 2, 3, 4, maybe a year. So at this stage, we've got a clear strategy, we've got a clear pipeline. We understand where we want to be, and we're passionate about what we do. And people are already bought in. So I don't think that we're going to change too much. I think we'll probably expand, continue to grow, and just share the word and just get it out there.
What is one talk that you've attended that's mesmerized you? Of course, you've had great speakers. I'm not asking you to pick a favorite, but is there a talk at the event while you were there that moved you and you can't forget the moment?
Sure. There's been so many. What's a good one? I would say, are we talking sport or are we talking business?
Anybody, because it's just one that moved you and readjusted your soul, and maybe it drove your goals in a different direction, your productivity or whatever it may be. Was there a single talk that you can point out?
Yeah, you've put me on the spot there. I would say that Dr. Darren Burgess from Arsenal was probably the most. Well, no, he's not at Arsenal anymore, but he was when he spoke in Cape Town last year. He was probably the most interesting person that I heard from, certainly, because he was applying AFL techniques within, Arsenal's setup there, which was quite insightful. So that was probably one of my more interesting talks. From an actual business standpoint, probably the chief negotiator of the FBI. So we brought him over to London a few years ago, and he was talking about managing hostage situations and how to kind of build influence and communicate effectively amongst individuals that have got big egos. So it's about managing the ego. To put into a small number of words, he was probably the most interesting and insightful person, how to build influence. Yeah.
Wow.
So in fact,
the head of the FBI.
So he was the chief negotiator of the FBI, which was he was fascinating. So, yeah.
Wow. That is a mind I need to. Wow. Hey, Justin, you've been so gracious with your time, man. I can't believe you're a Liverpool fan and you're this good of a guy.
That's okay. it's up to
You've been amazing,
boys that gave us the win last night. So,
well, hey, what you gonna do? Always giving. Yeah. They call us really the Mother Teresa's of the league. What you gonna do? We took Torres from you when he was horrible. We gave you 50 million. Now we gave you the title. You know what you should do? Really, is split the title, and we should get half.
And you should get half. Okay, fair game.
Hey. For folks at home, Justin, if there may be stakeholders who watch this and think, and I believe there will be, how do they get in touch? You're always. It sounds like you're always looking to grow. You're always looking to get people involved that want to go to the next level. Do we just send them to the website and they get hold of you through there, or how can corporates? I'm talking about
websites. So any LinkedIn, Justin Woolford. You can find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect with me, or if you want to go onto the website. So it's conquergroup.com. That's CONQA, then group.com. Or you just type Conquer online. I'm sure it'll come up on Google. But yeah, as I said, we'd love to connect. And anyone's got any questions around high performance, what we're doing, who we are, it's all online. If you want to connect with me, so please feel free. As I said, it's open to everyone. The more the merrier.
Oh, dude, that is awesome. And for folks at home, this isn't the last time you're going to see a Conquer representative here, because there's so much more. We just thought we'd introduce, and when Justin was willing to connect, I thought I had to take the opportunity. But Justin, I hope that whether it's you, whether it's X, whether it's your Australian counterparts, whether it's the American counterparts, this must be ongoing, because there is a magnificent opportunity for anybody who wants to take it to the next level. Justin, before I let you go, brother, we've got some questions. Dave, throw them at us. What do we got going there, Dave?
Okay, so
alrighty.
I can read it.
Can you? All right. I just want to read it for our podcast. Yeah, we got a podcast audience, people that listen with the ears. Hey, Justin, sometimes you got to listen, not to respond, you know? Just a little Psych 101 there. I heard it from an ex-girlfriend. That's why I'm single now. Anyway, for a different show. Tiny G says, Justin, you mentioned 300 odd coaches descending on Cape Town. Who's the greatest coach, in your opinion, that you worked with, and why? Great question.
Who's the greatest coach? Sure. The greatest coach that I think that I've worked with or know. Wow. That is a good question. Look, there are a lot out there. I would say, Stuart Lancaster's pretty good, former England rugby coach, now he's coach at Leinster. So he's brilliant. I haven't worked with Rassie, but I would say Rassie's definitely up there. I would say I've not done a lot of work with him, but he has been involved in our forums, is Pitso Mosamani, great coach from a South African football perspective. So he's great. I mean, what he's done with Sundowns is fantastic. Global coaches, a guy, I haven't done much work with him, or in fact any work with him, but also been involved in our forums, is Bob Rotella. So he was Tiger Woods' sports psychologist when he was hit his peak. He's world class. Can't get better. But yeah, there's quite a few. But hopefully that kind of provides you with a bit more insight in terms of there's not really any business coaches that I've worked with. But hopefully from a sports perspective, that answers the question. Sorry, hopefully that does, because I kind of try to give across different sports, across different.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got another one from Senzo here. He says, great work you're doing, Justin. Where and by where? I mean, on the scale, do you see Conquer Group in 5 years on the global sports performance market? And how far are you percentage-wise in achieving that? So where are you in terms of your trajectory?
So I don't even think we've scratched the surface, to be honest. I think we've, South Africa's brilliant, and we've got a really good forum that's taking place there. There's the Australian market, which we're looking at, and as I said, we're discussing with some key stakeholders there to run something similar. And then, in my opinion, if you want to sit at the big boys table, you've got to go to the States. So we have started opening up, and had a couple of conversations around an addition there. It takes place in perhaps Miami. But again, that's probably a sort of 3 to 5 year plan. So to answer from a percentage standpoint, we're probably around 20%, 30%, hopefully in terms.
Wow.
I don't think you ever get to the full 100. I think that there's a lot that we can do, and there's a whole consulting vertical which we exploring now, where we're going to be going into organizations and helping them and train them up and use different philosophies, and it's going to be more in-house. So there's a number of different things that are going on at the moment. So honestly, I think from the events standpoint, we've done quite a bit, and we've done, I think, enough. But I don't think that we've done nearly about where I can see this go. I think we're going global with this. There's a lot that can be done, and I think our journey's just started.
And just to spin off that question, as the leader of the organization, because you're doing such ambitious things, do you ever take time to slow down to think, okay, where are we? Or is it just such a do? Are you constantly just grinding and at work?
So I think just before COVID, I would say that I was do, go. And I think COVID has been for me, and I don't want to upset any of your listeners, but for me, it was a bit of a blessing, because it gave me an opportunity to kind of take a step back, look at the organization, where can we kind of polish up on, where can we do a little bit more, what other offerings can we provide our clients, and that's what we've done, hence the Conquer Connect vertical, hence the more in-house consulting. So Conquer Consulting, we're going to be launching soon, and then looking at different markets, like I said, Australia, the States. Those conversations have happened on the back of this taking a step back phase that we've had, that I think we've all faced over the last few months. So
sure.
Yeah, I mean, my head's been down for literally the last 5-6 years, and I haven't had a chance to take a step back, and this ultimately forced me to. So I think it's good for me to. So I think it's essential. I think that if what I can take away from it is that you have to take a step back, because I've learned so much.
Hey man, that's awesome. Before I read the next question, ask Stuart Lancaster this, because I've always wanted to ask him. When you do see him, because I imagine you guys just DM and text and talk about stuff, because you're big time like that. That England setup that he had, I wonder if he was too grown up, because there was quite a drinking, boozy culture at the time with everything that I've read, the reports that I've read when he was coach. So it almost came off like he was a headmaster, but maybe the players were too young. I would love to ask him how he would have done it differently. So it would be awesome, it would be awesome to hear from that. I mean, this is why people need to go to the Conquer groups. I guess they can ask him face to face. But I would love to know what Stuart Lancaster thinks of that time, because the talent wasn't the problem. Is half the guys wanted to be, the Ciprianis and all of them wanted to be superstars and Instagram stars. I'd love to know what he thinks about that situation.
Absolutely, and I can try and get him to give you an answer, but I think just from my standpoint, I don't know whether look, I think he didn't have a great World Cup that was on home soil, and I think that was
sure.
Detrimental to. I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I think that it was a tough one, a big pill to swallow. But I think he's a fantastic coach. I don't know if he was given enough time. If I see what he's just done in Ireland now, amazing. So
yeah,
sometimes coaches need a little bit more time to kind of get into the thing. So I mean, if you look at Ferguson, for example, Man United, he was almost sacked. What was it? I mean, sort of a year or two into his contract, and then all of a sudden he started really building momentum, towards the back end of his career. I mean, obviously he did some really good things, but look how much time he had to. I know. Look, sports changed and sports money now, and owners want the titles and the silverware. But at the same time, everyone's human, and you've got to and to change is whether it's changed the mindset, whether it's changed the ethos, whether it's changed the culture. It takes a lot of time and energy and efforts, and sometimes I feel sorry for some coaches because I do believe that they have the right plan, and sometimes the ball swings in the other direction.
So before I take that question, Dave, I just want to ask our guest one more question. Justin, who do you think the best sports owner, because this is one of my favorite questions and I will address it in the future, especially about the Premier League. Who do you think is the best sports owner in the world? Like the best owner of a team? You got Jerry Jones in the NFL, John W. Oh, hey, what else were you going to say? What else were you going to say? He's just done it 30 years. All right. It's a great answer. Touche.
I bought the club a few years ago, and he also then brought. I think he's brought some really good. Obviously financial backing is important, but I think what he's done with the Red Sox, and then of course now at Liverpool as well. He's also brought LeBron James in, and he's done a whole lot of cool stuff around that as well. So I think it's he obviously had a clear plan, and he implemented it. And look, in however long he's owned it, 4 or 5 years. I mean, he's won a Champions League and a Premier League in 2 years last year and this year. So look, I think it starts at the top. Yeah. And he came in and he threw a lot of money at it. But as we've seen with many organizations, it's not just about the money. It's about the ethos, the club, the culture, and he brought that in. And so I think there's hands down. I think from an owner standpoint, I think he's also not too hands-on. You do get other owners that are so involved with the team, and they want to select certain players because their friends flown over from some other country, and they want to say, "Oh, look how much." You get all of that as well, which I think. I think. I think that's my answer. Well, no, I don't think I know it's mine.
Yeah, that's because you're there. Hey, listen, it's not because he's a Liverpool fan, by the way. A lot of people will say, yeah, sure. No bias there. Listen, congratulations to Liverpool. Dave, give me that last question before we let this good man go and enjoy. Oh, it's sweltering apparently in London. The real Pinocchio says, hey, Umbi Bumbi mentioned that Keane is better than Henry because he was someone you can build a team around. Is this more important than being the most skillful sportsman? I'll hand that over to you, Justin. I don't know if you caught that. I believe Roy Keane, if I had to start a team with all the players that have ever played in the league, I've always said Henry's the best player I've ever seen in the Premier League. I believe he's head and shoulders above everybody. But Roy Keane is the person I'd want to center my team around. So I wouldn't pick Henry ahead of Keane purely because not only is his ability right up there, is his personality forces everybody to be at a certain standard. And there is no training ground for that. That willingness not to be popular, but to be right, that Roy Keane had and made him, it left a sour taste in most people's mouths. But I think when you win 6 titles as the greatest captain, I believe, in British football history, there's something to it. So I don't know if you got that question and you'd like it again. Dave, maybe you can bring the question up again just so I can refresh. So I mentioned that Keane is better than Henry because he was someone you can build a team around. Is this more important than being the most skillful sportsman?
I think from sport has evolved and it's always evolving. I don't think it's now I don't want to say a one-man game. You can have the best player on the field and build a team around, and that team might still not work. So I think it takes all players, from backroom staff to the coaching staff to, the players and themselves, the reserves, to ensure that you can win now, certainly at, the level that, the Premier League or Champions League clubs do. But yeah, I mean, it's a difficult one to answer because, you get a guy like Messi or Ronaldo, of course, you're going to want to, when you're spending that kind of money, you're going to want to build your players around him because, those are the big money men that can, they're the top 1%, and they're the ones that ensure that you can that you win the trophies. But I personally wouldn't necessarily build a team around one specific player because if that player gets injured, then what? If that player is out for a certain number of games for whatever reason, then you're in trouble because that team can't function then. So you're only as good as your weakest link, and as good as they are, sometimes is your biggest downfall. So you can never rely on just one player And I personally, I'm not a manager, I don't coach at that level, and I don't have any aspirations to either. So I can't, I'm only speaking from a personal perspective. I would never position any team around a specific player. I think that's dangerous. But look, some teams have done it and they've won. So who am I to say?
Well, you're making a great point. Barcelona have not won a Champions League since they lost Xavi and Iniesta. And people say Messi, and I believe Messi's the greatest of all time. But it's a good point what you're saying, is that you needed those. He needed a cast, right? Not just it's not just the Messi show.
No, exactly. Look at what Ronaldo's done at Juve. They built, and to some degree they did that with him at Man United. He was Fergie's best player, and he loved him, and he won trophies with him. So, look, as I said, I can't really comment for. I said I'm not in professional football, and I don't coach at any level. So I'm just talking from my personal opinion. But I think if you had to talk about from a business context or any context, you would never surround your entire organization around a specific person, because that person might disappear, and then what? Or not be available for whatever reason. So look, it's a tough one. It's a very hard question to answer and give you a yes or no.
Great question. Hey, Justin, been phenomenal. Let me let you go before your partner leaves you, because now you're just on a call with some guy in South Africa. It's been phenomenal. And it isn't the last time. I cannot wait to have you back. So folks, this is just a teaser. He will be back. Conker will be back. And I hope we are together for a long, long time, because there's plenty of gold to be had. Justin, look after yourself in sweltering London.
Brilliant. Thanks very much. And I appreciate it. And to all your listeners out there, hopefully you had a good listen in, and hopefully we provided some good value. And yeah, as I said, we're just scratching the surface here. So let's continue this, and we can keep going and start getting into other areas. We're always happy to help and contribute. Absolutely. Conquer Connect. We will put that in the description, folks. Look out for it. Justin, see you on the other side. Folks, that has been a different ball game. It is a Friday. I hope you all are blessed on the weekend. You're filled with love. If you can get some exercise, get out into some fresh air. Have a great time. Be with loved ones. Be with people that make you feel great. From me and the rest of the team at A Different Ball Game for this week, it has been a pleasure. It's been a different ball game.